Hi, everybody. T. I hope you guys are doing well. Hi, Christy. I hope you're doing well today. I'm kind of watching people join, and it's a crazy feeling. Now I'm noticing like all the things. My bun is crooked. Anyway, how are you? I hope you're doing well, and I feel very glad to be here. I talked about this whole thing with a friend of mine today, and it's just a good feeling to be able to be able to share this with you guys. I would love to think that even with Facebook or without Facebook or this kind of platform that somehow this would happen anyway, but I'm just really thankful for it. We are on episode 6, and it's been kind of a crazy strange feeling to read what I used to think 12 years ago and a little bit before that, and I don't know, I kind of think that I guess we craft our memories, right? Maybe we journal and we can look back that way, but I feel like we kind of make the present and the past agree and be okay without such concrete evidence. I think I said this before in one of the earlier ones, but like when I started finally going to therapy 2 years ago to deal with my mom's death and a lot of stuff, just lifelong depression that you're hearing about, I handed her my book and I said, here, this is going to save us a lot of time. And 2 weeks later, she came back with, you say this is about facing fear, and you say this is about jumping off cliffs and stuff. But what I see is that it is about self-judgment. And it's been a really intense feeling to read these words and really see that after just the work that I've done in the past couple of years to really ditch that self-judgment. And so it's been a really intense process to read, and it'll continue being so. So we are reading chapter 5 tonight. I'm trying to think of what I wanted to say. So there are a couple of chapters that are only like 8 pages long, and this is not one of them, but there are, and I will probably read 2 chapters on those nights. Like one of them is almost kind of like a poem. And so, it won't ever go under half an hour. Not that you're, oh gosh, I need more of Janae. Not like that. But you know what I mean. I'm glad you're here for the long haul. So, and it's like good to see my face or myself, to see that my bun is crooked, and that's the scarf that I wear all the time. It's covering my TV. And this was my mom's, but it's just my favorite color. So I hope all of you get the chance someday to watch yourself talk on the TV, because it's a strange feeling. So last thing, said friend I spoke with today, my first art was singing. So I used to sing in church all the time. And one of my favorite responses, and I would come off the stage and somebody would say, oh, you sounded great. And I would say, oh, thank you, God sang. now I see how that is completely against what I think even God wants. If there is God, to deflect and self-efface in order to make yourself feel better at being looked at. Part of the stress of this has been that I'm visible again to people who aren't in my, 15 people center circle. And I know that my skills lend themselves to those things, but I've had this conflict my entire life of having the skills, but being afraid of being seen. And I've been figuring out some of the reasons for that. There's always been this war, right? Of cringing, self-effacing. If I do something well, I have to immediately apologize for it or list my flaws in order for me to feel okay about being good at something. And so, and then just being seen at something, not even good at. So this has been an interesting experience and still is, in being seen again. And not because that's the intent, but because it's what's required for me to do what I know I'm supposed to do and I know I want to do, and using skills and just being wholly this person, thing, moment in time that we all are. So I'm going to stop talking, preaching, and get right into it. So for those who are new to this, I'm reading my book, The Oat Project, out loud until we're done every night at 7:30 here in my living room, on my couch. And we will, I'm looking. Okay. There. The Edge in Me. Chapter 5. Episode 6. I need to say one more thing. You'll hear more because there's going to be a lot of more stuff about this. But I just want to kind of love on my people from my past and understand that my dealing with my religion and how some of the negative aspects of it really fit with my problems and my personality like a lock and key, and intensified all of it so much more. And I've been having to work to shed those because of depression and anxiety and all of those things. It all created this perfect storm. And in this book, what I've been really noticing as I read it is that I was really having to work through that. It was really the beginning of that process. And even though I had been out of church for a while. And so it is not so much that it's not that I don't like people who go to church or believe or whatever. It's just I'm vigilant about the things that impacted me, and I hope, I can't help but continue to do that. But I mean to do it in a really loving way. And I honor my mom's belief. I honor your belief, whatever that belief structure is. We're all tripping to the end. So just know that's my heart. So the edge in me. Holiness. When I was 13, my mom got her ears pierced. She was the same age I am now, 37. Huh. I never thought about it, but why did she, a preacher's wife, defy Nazarene convention at that age? What did it cost her? Is it possible she felt like I felt? Boxed in, wondering what the point was, even in the midst of deep faith? Maybe she gets this whole thing in a way I never considered. I can no longer ask her. I'm just going to take a sip. It's really hot. I was supposed to wait until I was 18, but my parents caved to my logic. If it's not wrong for mom, why should I wait? Until the early 1980s in the Nazarene Church, self-adornment was doctrinally discouraged and usually prohibited. No pierced ears or any kind of jewelry, even wedding rings, and no frivolity like shorts, short sleeves, short skirts, short hair, frills, or gauzy materials. One hot summer in the late 1970s, my mother went to a conference in Texas and was ostracized by other pastors' wives because she wore 3/4 length sleeves instead of long sleeves. She was a rebel? In ways, I agreed with the Nazarene Church's doctrinal foundations. They grew from inner city ministry in Los Angeles, focused on helping the poor and disenfranchised, building a culture of holiness and separation from worldliness out of respect and love. Clothes mattered. But eventually it became more a platform from which to judge others than an external indication of internal faith. I just need to settle into it, people. Okay? Hi. All right. And though those rules had slackened with modernization by the 1980s, the judgments of secularity and worldliness remained as so much background noise, scar tissue over a wound. Most Nazarenes now wouldn't bat an eye at pierced ears. Pierced anything else, however, leapt the bounds of tolerance. Journal. I'm pushing away dealing with the permanence of piercing my nose. Tattoo shops look so disreputable, associated with people far gone into sin, unholy. I don't go to church anymore, but why put a hole in my nose? Will it ruin my sense of smell? I'm not against piercing for others. I'm flailing, at a loss for how to feel about this task. But I loved the tiny diamond sparkling from Jordan Sparks' nose on American Idol. Though her face is lovely without it, the diamond added an edge to her beauty. Do I have edges? I suppose I do. But right now, like tectonic plates reveal themselves in earthquakes, my edges are breaking through the outer crust of my life, and it's getting painful. Would this happen if I weren't doing this project? I don't know. What will be left of the me I've always known? My Indian side. I met Diana at Westside Tattoo, only a few blocks from my kids' grade school. The last time I had seen her was at the initial Oat Council planning meeting. Her caring email started the furor among the other Christians. She was considering getting a nose piercing too and wanted to support me and see it all for herself. I looked at my favorite gluten-free bakery next door. Instead of bread in my belly, I'm buying metal in my nose. As we walked in, the piercing artist, Toast, you guys will, Colorado Springs people probably know him. He's great. The piercing artist, Toast, passed us, walking out as he lit a cigarette. I didn't say hello, figuring he'd like privacy on his break. The place was spotless. Aaron told me health inspectors brought new owners here to show them how to properly run a tattoo parlor. Excuse me. We walked past a pool table and walls plastered with art, up a ramp to the main level. It looked like a beauty salon with half walls, not enclosed. 3 people were getting tattoos in the bright and open main room. Eek! That will be me in a few short weeks. The guys behind the counter joked around, clearly having fun. Smiling with them helped me relax. The owner had black plugs in his ears. He asked me why I was there, and I told him about the project. He asked me what I'd already done, and laughing with him, I told him of my fear of dying while smoking marijuana. He then told me of his cousin who almost died of an anaphylactic allergic response to weed. My heart stuttered. No way. No way, no way, no way. I forced myself to breathe because I had to move past it, not let the fear overwhelm me. because Toast was back. I reminded him of our phone conversations and introduced Diana. He showed us to a room next to the reception desk, a small, doorless space with a curtain containing a massage table, sink, what looked like a microwave, and cabinets. Then he showed me the jewelry. I had planned on getting a cheap, short-term option, then ordering a diamond for Christmas, but we looked anyway. We bent over the case, fascinated. They look so tiny. Phew. They look much larger on the face, Toast said. Ew. A light teal crystal beckoned. Diana noticed. It would match your eyes, she said. That's always good. I chucked the diamond plans and said, let's do it. We went into the little room. The table was labeled massage table. Cool. Do I get a massage too? He laughed. Have way too many people asked you that, I asked. You're the first, he said. He set up his equipment. The room started to smell like a hospital. My heart beat faster than before. I hate hospitals. The smell is the sterilizing solution, Toast said, laying out several sealed, numbered packages, wiping down the massage table, all with surgical gloves on. So why did you get a closed room instead of being with all of them? I asked as he worked. Well, some piercings are, he paused, looking amused, insensitive spaces. Ah, I said, blushing. Well then. I raised my eyebrows and looked at Diana. Yikes. I hopped up on the table. Okay, look right at me, said Toast. I did. Which side do you want it on? He asked. My Indian side, I said. I'm a 16th Cherokee. I don't think he knows what to make of me. See, my nose is crooked, but looks straight from this side. I turned my head to the right. I'm Scotch-Irish too, and see how this side tilts up a little? I turned my head to the left. I always liked my Irish side better, but my Indian side feels proper for this. What do you think? Okay, guys. Irish side, Indian side. My nose is crooked. Two faces. You're right. Indian side, he said. Parentheses. I wonder now if I offended him with the distinction. I didn't mean to be or sound racist, only to describe my heritage. But I wonder. He smiled a little. His charm was subtle. Finely drawn features, cautious eyes in a narrow face, slow smile. I'm seeing a place for it here, he said. He used a ballpoint pen, marked my nose, and handed me a mirror. Look, that looks good, I said. And it did. I had been so afraid he would get it wrong and be convinced that his preference was right, and I'd have to disagree and have bad feelings and have a horrible experience. I had seen piercings where they rested not in the headwaters of the nostril flare, but on the edge, looking ready to flee, or on top of the hill of the nostril instead of in the valley. Toast swabbed my nose inside, outside, and inside. The most important thing is to breathe, he said. Yoga breathing has gotten me through a lot, I said. Childbirth, pushing for 17 seconds to the nurse's amazement, the relief and joy I discovered in yoga, reclaiming my life after my first child, becoming stronger for the first time in my life. Good, he said. He measured my nostril wall thickness with calipers. Do I have a thick nose? I asked. Can one lose nostril weight? Does having babies change it? I miss my pre-baby body. I said, if anything, it's thin. One place I'm thin, I said to Diana. We giggled. Lord help us. Toast held up a metal tube. This keeps the needle from going any further than I want, like through your septum, he said. Pierced septum. Oh dear. He put the tube into my nose. This is the worst part, okay? Okay, I said. Diana clicked away on her camera. I felt a pulling, then a sharp pain for 2 full seconds. Ow! My eyes teared up. Breathe, Janae. Toast left the tube and the needle hanging there while he got that teal crystal stud ready. Click went the camera. Breathe, breathe. I was shaking, hurting, determined not to show it. My baseline for pain was childbirth, but the body and brain forgets. We're meant to forget. Otherwise, we'd never risk again. This hurts, but only for a moment. What is a moment, anyway? Toast twisted in the nose stud. It looks huge. He was right. It looks huge. Oh no, what did I do? Right after it was in, Toast got this look on his face. His brows furrowed a tiny bit. He said. I knew this look. This was the look of something not quite right. No one has ever been able to hide it from me. Crud. Why can't anything I do be easy? Is it punishment for overcomplicating everything? Is it because I'm a perfectionist? The marijuana went wrong too, dang it all. Be blasé, Janae. Blasé. Own it. What's up? I asked. Oh no, oh no, oh no. He cocked his head and looked again. It's a little vertical, but I think it will be fine, he said. How I have always hated fine. What do you mean? I asked. Toast handed me the mirror and I saw what he meant. Ah, see how it sits up off your nose a little, he asked. How it's not quite flat? Yeah, I see, I said. It's all wrong. Abort, abort. My stomach sank, shaking. I think it'll be fine, that it could resolve itself, said Toast. If you want me to try to fix it now, I can, but because it's so close to redo, it may cause too much tearing. I'd rather wait a week or two for it to heal. Then we can go again. These were not the words I had hoped to hear. I looked and looked again. Diana looked. It doesn't look bad at all, she said. In fact, I'm completely jealous. It looks so good on your nose. But the little gap under the bottom side might as well have been a strobe light glaring at me. I'm such a perfectionist. It will probably drive me crazy, I said, grimacing. Sorry. Wow, I said something negative out loud to other people. I have never been good at confrontation. You need to decide if you want to redo by 2 days at the most, preferably within 24 hours, Toast said. Okay, I said, still looking. I'll wait tonight and let my husband take a look too. Just come on over if you want me to take it out for you, okay? Toast said. As we left, Diana stared. You can really hardly unless you're up close, she said. I'm so jealous. I had to look in the big mirror once more on our way out through the lower level of the shop. It hurt to look somehow. It looks huge, and I know I'm going to have to get it redone. As I drove alone on the way to getting celebratory hot cocoa, I felt overwhelmed. What have I done? But it was more than that. It was not horror at what I'd done, but that I could feel myself changing. Others would perceive me differently. It would be a clue to who I really was, what I was really like, how I really thought. I can no longer hide my edge. If it meant we wouldn't have fun or they would think poorly of me, I was not yet comfortable owning up to my left-leaning opinions. We all have a little laugh now. Okay. That's so cute. Okay. To my left-leaning opinions. A piercing, though, is like a red flag, a warning sign that here lies someone, at least contrarian, if not downright rebellious. And I still recoil at being considered rebellious. My father and so many others in the church preached the dangers of a rebellious spirit so firmly, it still induced a visceral, "No, I'm not," in me. Even though my mind knew Christ as the ultimate rebel, knew he probably wouldn't bat an eye at a pierced nose, in the real world I had lost my shield of conventionality. The edge in me was now apparent. I began to know in my gut how deeply I was changing. Will anyone else notice? Will it change more than I expect? Diana and I hung out at Rico's until after 10. I was tired and became more so drinking hot cocoa. I was too tired too tired to write, overwhelmed from the pain, the disappointment of its not being easy, not being done with this task in one go. The nose at home. Jack was awake when I got home. I ate and fed the baby while we watched a show. I was holding my breath. Finally, I forced myself to look in the bathroom mirror. I'd have wanted to look at it constantly if it had been perfect, but it wasn't. Maybe I'm overreacting as usual. I forgot the cleaning instructions in the car and didn't want to get dressed to go outside to get them, so I Googled it, and up popped worst case scenarios, of course. Evidently, for all you who don't know, the mucosal membrane lies right under the body's skin, including inside the nose. If the membrane gets infected, encephalitis. Lovely. Something to fear besides uglitude. How to wash a newly pierced nostril. I dissolved a 1/4 teaspoon of sea salt in 8 ounces of filtered warm water. Standing over the sink, I soaked a cotton ball, flooded the outside, soaked another, stuck it up my nose, and flooded the inside. Tossed that one. Toast said it would take 10 minutes to use up the whole 8 ounces. It took me half an hour. I slept without waking once, a rarity with a nursing baby. The next morning, the vertical slant had increased. I was aching to blow my nose as hard as possible. Percy woke first and didn't notice the change. Sage woke an hour later, came to bed for her cuddle, and immediately said, "You got a jewel in your nose." "What do you think?" I said. "I like it," she said, putting her sweet face close to mine. Phew. Children's honesty can be so harsh. "It's a little crooked, so I'm going to get it taken out today, then redo it in a week," I said. "What do you mean?" she asked. "See?" Turning my head and pointing to the obvious to me gap. "An inch from my face," she said. "Oh, I see." Percy had climbed onto the bed with us. "What do you think?" I asked. "You're beautiful, Mama," he said. "Ah, my dear lover boy. I share different traits with each of my children. With Percy, it is his touchy-feely nature." I nursed baby Leo, and we all went on with our day. The anticipation of pain, a screen over the feeding, the listening, the laughing, the mothering. When I came home from work, I wrote for a while, then headed over to Westside Tattoo to take out the stud. My jaw clenched. Will it bleed too much? What if it doesn't stop bleeding and I get encephalitis and die? Toast sat at the counter. He smiled. "I thought you'd be back." "It got a little more vertical overnight," I said apologetically. He looked. "Yes, it did. A lot more. Let's get that out." Phew, he sees it too. I'm not crazy, paranoid, or too much of a perfectionist. "I'll go set up," he said. He swabbed my nose, snapped on disposable gloves, and swabbed 3 more times to loosen the stud, then pulled it out. Yeah, it hurt. Not quite like hell, and only bled a little. He admonished me to wash it twice a day with sea salt water for the week it would take to heal. 5 hours later, looking in the mirror at home, it looked like an everyday blemish. I was bummed it hadn't been simple, but I knew what to expect next time. As I looked myself in the eyes, I grew stronger. I knew there would be a next time. I was so tired from writing about tasks that a week's reprieve was a relief. But I will keep going. I will. 1 week later. Hi, guys. It was too hot to swallow. Okay. Make sure I'm not read. It was already the first week in July. The summer was flying and I was crawling. The long list stretched out in front of me. Once again, I wondered what on earth I was doing, but I had to do what I said I'd do. So here we go again. My dear Christian friend, Tabitha, with whom I walked most mornings, said she wanted to come with me this time, but I called and called with no answer. I was alone again, wishing for company, not looking forward to the pain, feeling wholly rejected. Parentheses. For you that haven't heard this yet, the parentheses means 2016 when I was doing the very last edit of the book and the last writing. She told me later missing the call had pained her. Though I recall beginning to feel abandoned by friends at this point, hindsight has illuminated it. I don't think they knew how at sea I felt. They perhaps really did think I was having fun, but I was used to being passive-aggressively judged, so that was what made sense. Then Stella called from San Francisco, saying she was with me in spirit, that I was not alone, that I was loved. As I pulled up to the brick, mural-covered West Side tattoo, it still felt like another country. So foreign. I was used to adapting to new people and places, always an outsider. I don't need to fit in here, I guess. I've wanted, but I've never seemed to need it enough that it would change me. I finally walked in, and there was my son's teacher. She was with her sister as she got a tattoo. Middle-aged, she had been unfailingly cheerful, sweet, and loving to my family. Seeing her in this wild place was simultaneously comforting and disconcerting. But we chatted a little, and her hug and sweet enthusiasm helped. And then it was time to walk into the little room to get more holes in me. I was more nervous than the first time. I am alone. But after a few minutes, Toast became my friend. He was my age, and we had a great talk while I fidgeted, swinging my legs, which didn't touch the floor up on that massage table, rambling whatever popped into my head. I told him I'd read that fidgeting burns up to 200 calories a day, so I took it up, and now I couldn't stop. But I have lost weight, so maybe it's working. Toast laughed and reminded me to breathe, which reminded me of childbirth as he was about to put in the needle. My mind cleared. My breath calmed. Childbirth is infinitely harder than this. I inhaled, exhaled, and the needle went in. I didn't tear up as much as the first time. Breathe. I'm trying a different technique with the metal tube inside this time, Toast said. Okay, I said, wondering what he meant. He pushed the screw through the new hole and looked. That didn't work, he said. Really? Is what I said. What I thought was, shit, 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 you have got to be kidding me! My dang skinny nostrils! Nope, it's worse than the first time, he said. He looked at me, or rather my nose, intently, looking disgusted with himself. I can fix it now if you want to try. Yes, let's do it, I said. I don't even want to know how or why he can poke me again now and not have to wait another week. I wanted this task checked off the list. He took out the screw. It hurt. I bled for a couple of minutes. Q-tips mopped it up. The second time, there was no pain, but I felt a pop, like a pushing. I told Toast. We probably disabled something in there for a while, he said. Disabled? Permanently? How long would it last? What was that pop? What was that pop? Too late now? I breathed out. Toast put the screw back in. That's better, he said. Oh, good, I said. Is he being optimistic? What the hell am I doing here? I wondered if it would ever be right. Even my nose is weird. He looked inside my right nostril. There's still plenty of room in there. He stuck his finger up my nose. Yeah, I think that's going to do it. Your nose has a weird angle inside somehow. Here, look. He handed me the mirror. Great. I can't even chalk it up to being insecure. My nose is actually odd. It still didn't look completely flat, but better than the first time. Refusing to hope, I asked, so if it moves overnight, I can call you tomorrow? You have to be able to look at it in the mirror every single morning, he said. Then he smiled. So yes, I knew I would be back. Breathe, Janae. I was still nervous, though it barely hurt. We chatted about a PBS special on hypnosis and how people handle pain. He cleaned up. I paid. We chatted more. I showed my son's teacher. It's beautiful, she said. I want one now. I love her. The swell, the doctor, and the membrane. Still not whiskey. Sorry. I left Westside Tattoo determined to be happy with it. Hearing toasts, a lot of people have an image of what they think their piercing will look like, but the body and skin almost never match that. Piercings change. I will not be one of those static, stubborn, illogical people. I will like this. I went to Rico's and they all loved it. It's still just a little vertical, but it looks great. I started writing and rewarded myself with a hot cocoa. A little more than an hour passed, feeling fine, and then a wave of nausea hit, and panic overcame my control. Why am I panicking? Because I'm alone. No one is emailing or calling me back. I have no friends. This is truly a journey alone. I deep breathed, working to keep writing it down instead of letting the panic derail me. My right temple throbbed. At about 8, 2 hours after toast pulling me, my head started spinning and I felt shaky. I figured it was either from not eating enough or another endorphin wave because my nose started throbbing too. I was so dizzy I had to sit down. Probably normal, especially since I got poked twice. But I was worried about that pop. I sat there, panicking in public. You know what? This stress level is nothing. I am strong. I've been through much, much worse. I can handle this. This confidence was new. They even like me. My body is trying to panic, but I'm breathing and eating through it. As I ate, my headache eased too. I was just hungry. Phew. Oh, excuse me. I got home a little before 10, and Jack and I watched an episode of The Good Life while I fed Leo. They went to bed, and by 11, I had prepared the sea salt soak, but when I looked in the mirror, panic hit. The stud was sinking into my nose. The top half tilted vertical and looked embedded. It bled a tiny bit when I opened my mouth wide, and I panicked again. I woke Jack, asking him to examine it in the glare of the bathroom lights. It looks swollen, but not too bad, he said. It doesn't look infected? Is he awake enough to see it accurately? I don't think so, he said. Okay, I said. Okay. I hugged my poor sleepy husband. Thank you. I'm sorry for waking you, but thank you. It's okay, Janae, he said, his exhausted arms barely squeezing a hug. Poor man who must put up with my warped fears. Parentheses. Since then, I have learned that people treat you how you train them to treat you. I wasn't warped, only afraid. I soaked my thrice-poked nose in sea salt water, and the swelling lessened. It was almost midnight. I needed sleep. I was meeting Tabitha early the next morning for our regular walk. Sleep, Janae. It will help your nose heal. I conked out. The next day, it was better. Getting a haircut, my stylist, who also had a pierced nose, said the same verticality happened with hers. Yay, so I'm not crazy. She said hers took weeks to settle and straighten out, and that it was her nose, not the piercing. And hers looks terrific, so maybe mine will too. The following morning, I woke to an almost perfectly angled, unswollen piercing. I had a headache and felt hit by a truck because the baby had woken at 1:30 a.m. to nurse, but got up at 6 to walk anyway. It looks so much better, though. Maybe something's finally going right. That was Thursday. That night and all day Friday, my aches and nausea increased, and I got a fever. I slept little, trying to convince myself that this was not encephalitis. I failed and dragged myself to a doctor Saturday morning. He belittled my pain and said I had the bad luck to have caught a virus on the same day I got my nose pierced. He warned of keloids and other piercing dangers, making his disapproval clear, and sent me home. The nose screw went more vertical with every minute, seeming to want to eject itself from my body. It was so vertical by Monday morning that when I went back to toast expecting to have to nix the whole thing. I'm relieved, but this is a task. I have to finish it. I wondered how long it would take for it to heal this time. Mentally, it had caused so much worry. But is it my brain, my flawed, panic-prone brain that does this? Toast turned my head back and forth. It's definitely sticking out, he said, but let's see what's going on inside. He snapped on the bright blue rubber gloves that, I suddenly realized, made me think of the blue-handed villains in the show Firefly. Tilt your head back. He used a Q-tip to swab the inside. Then he massaged the inside wall. Ow! The dull ache started again. Okay, take a look at that. I looked in the mirror. Ah, okay. Better, I said. Not exactly how I imagined it, but much better. Toast looked at it again. It's not completely flush, he said, but I think that's because the hole's right where the planes of your nose change. It's still not as flush as I imagined it would be, I said, struggling to be forthright. I know, he said, but I think it would be a mistake to try again. Okay, I said, letting the question stay in my voice. He understood my tone and said it was caught on the inner membrane. Membrane? The mucous membrane. It lines the inside of your nose. Sometimes the screw twists a little from swelling, gets caught on that membrane, twists more, then pushes out, usually the wrong angle, he said. So that's why it looked fine on Friday, I asked? Yeah, he said, give it a couple of days and we'll see how it goes from here. It will calm down. Okay, I said. Okay. It suits you. When I told my mother I was getting my nose pierced, her voice sounded almost scared and definitely shocked. She quoted the Old Testament passage prohibiting poking more holes in the body than God had given us. I pooh-poohed her words and laughed, saying, reproachfully even, Mom, that means you should never have gotten your ears pierced. Where is the line? I think back to that conversation and know I could have been gentler. But her voice surprised me in its stridence, its judgment, and I laughed to deflect it with full force. 2 weeks after the piercing, none of my family had yet seen it. I waited for them at P.F. Chang's to celebrate my sister-in-law's birthday. I was nervous, especially at what Mom would think. After her disapproval, I had gone ahead with it. What would she think? I wondered how long it would take for them to notice. They all walked in, and we hugged and said hi, and then my sister-in-law saw me and immediately said, oh, it's so cute, Janae. And I looked at my mom. I asked, did you notice it? The moment stretched inside me, encompassing all those long days at church, years of admonition, imbued with the warmth of her care and concern, her heart-centered teaching, knowing it all sprang from her pristine love for me. She smiled a little and said, I noticed. We hugged, and she tilted her head back, looking closely at my nose, and said, it suits you. Her eyes knew how scared I was. Oh, I'm totally gonna cry. That was one of the most generous things she ever did. I'm not saying she didn't think it. But generous words, I should say. Lots of other generous things, but her eyes knew how scared I was. and her smile grew. It's cute, Janae. Please understand, my mother's love was unconditional no matter what I did, but I had almost never warranted real disapproval. This time was different. So with her words, my deepest fear of uncoiled itself a bit from my spine, and I breathed again. And though we all had a fun, lovely dinner, I sat there talking about everything but the book project. I felt like a completely different person. I knew they didn't approve, so I didn't talk about it. This was the point at which it became real for my mom, and thus me. She had expressed deep concern, even fear, and I ignored it and did what I wanted. Though I was strong-willed as a child, I was not rebellious, not the preacher's daughter of pop culture. I almost always listened to my mom and had done only 2 weighty things contrary to her wisdom. At 17, I had dated a much older man for 6 weeks before going to college. And at 26, I had dated Jack, though he wasn't a Christian at first. But even in the midst of disagreement, she had always said, "You have a good heart, Janae. I trust it, and I trust you." Parentheses. The light of her still dances in the world. I can't read. The light of her still dances in the air of my world, smiling, bright as snow, swirling in the sun. That's the end. This chapter. So, tomorrow night, let's see here. Yeah, is Pine Needle Rock Love. And yeah, if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask. Thank you. That's really the best thing I can say. Have a good night. And this will be on YouTube by tonight if anybody wants to listen to them even, just as a, an audio track. Okay, bye. Love you guys. And really, thank you.